All right, we're back with another one. This one is from Large Man Abroad. His video is on an unemployed nation, why jobs won't come back to America. I was actually recording this the first time and I had a phone call, but for some reason, my screen recording did not record the system audio. So I wasted a whole hour commentating and it only recorded my voice. And yet it had system audio in one of the tracks, but I was wondering why it was cut off. So I guess when I paused and I resumed recording, it sat for too long and didn't record the system audio. I don't know. But this is technically part two. But I wanted to touch upon this and commentate with him because this was a topic I was kind of like considering talking about because Trump is heavily preaching and pushing the narrative that he is forcing tariffs on other countries to force them to come make products here. And one of the things I've always said to my friends, even if he was successful, let's just say perfect world, successful, it's going to take up to 4 to 6 years to get everybody to bring a industry here with a factory. Like, they got to survey states, survey the lands, find money, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's crazy. So he's running a bullying tactic to force jobs here. Then manufacturing is, the way they treat people in manufacturing is hell. They treat them bad. And they're treated like slaves because these companies are so heavily focused on their profits. They don't want to lose no money, period. So yeah, it's interesting he brought up the topic why jobs won't come here, and some may, but a lot of people are not going to want to work that type of environment, especially after all these decades of horror stories. I will actually add my 5 cents and a dime this conversation into a commentary.
Jobs that they can actually dive into and build careers from. Our work culture has us moving from one job to another, chasing some kind of pay raise or some kind of stability that never seems to be there. And I think in the hope of that, that's one of the reasons why we have the tariffs and trying to turn industry to come back to America. But the fact is, are Americans ready to work like that anymore? Are
And like I said, Americans, after years of hearing the horror stories and the mistreatment and the definite social disconnect that a lot of these factory um, manufacturing jobs cause, some of them work offshore. They don't want to deal with that. Even if it pays, some people, the young people will take it because they're just coming out of high school, whatever, and they're looking at, oh yeah, I'm gonna follow the American dream and make bank. But after a while, when you start experiencing burnout, they hear people suffering from burnout. They have the high accents. Yeah, they're not gonna want to do that. Like, and then they're looking at, and the sad thing, they're looking at these other people on these blue collar jobs or these regular administrative jobs making twice as much as them, twice as much. Like, no, they're not gonna really want to do that, and that's why, despite the narrative, immigrants coming and taking our jobs, they're the ones who are going to do those jobs anyway because that's how they work in their country. Americans don't want to work like slaves and be treated like shit. They really don't. And then it's expensive to live here anyway. They don't want to deal with that. So he's absolutely right.
Americans ready to be industrialized, to be producers? And if we did become producers again, who's going to buy our stuff? And that's my big question. If America
Absolutely.
becomes a global producer,
One of the biggest things I hear from commentators is one of the reasons why a lot of the countries that Trump targeted for tariffs, they are not importing our products is because we charge too high of a dollar price point off of our dollar market or our dollar value in their country where their value of their currency is extremely lower than ours. And that makes no sense. And not only does that not make sense, but I'm tired of hearing this. But I'm hearing businesses still to this very day talking about we're not trying to make products for the affordable customer or for the cheap customer. That is so selfish and greedy. That's why China is killing us. China is beating us, but they also a global producer because they make things affordable for everybody around the world. And that's I don't know how we're gonna try to make manufacturing here when we can't afford anything anymore. And then we want other countries to buy stuff at the dollar value of the American dollar. Like that makes no sense. They're not.
Sir, in this world, in this global economy, can we even sell? Right? Who would
No,
buy
I
our
can't.
stuff? Things in America are so expensive, and the cost of living in America is so high that any jobs that are going to be created aren't going to be minimum wage jobs. Not if we're
Absolutely, they're
making
not.
immigration laws stricter. These are going to be Americans working
The sad thing, the minimum wage jobs right now, regardless of where the states put the minimum wage, is not even feasible. From 2020 to now, the cost of living has tripled so bad. Like when I ran the numbers in my head, you have to make $40 an hour just to live comfortable. That's how bad. Like you can't even survive on the highest minimum wage level in a state on a state level at $15 an hour. You can no longer survive off of that. California raised their minimum wage to $20 an hour, and that is still not sustainable. And what those businesses did, instead of feeling for their workers and being empathetic and finding a way to pay them, they said, I'm not paying them or I'm shutting my business down. And yet there was rampant theft and stealing because people can't afford it. That's grimy. That is grimy. So these factories and manufacturers are going to pay around $20 an hour, which to be honest, that's minimum wage in this day and era, 2025. Because you got to be making double that just to live comfortably.
these jobs, which means the pay would have to be enough for a living standard in America. They're not going to be minimum wage jobs because minimum wage jobs all over the country are still between $7 and $9. Some states $15, but at the same
Right.
time, those states have incredibly high taxes, taxes that don't actually help the people. And that's where I want to go. How does
And not just high taxes, but the cost of living is high, very, very high. And the rest of the states are catching up to the cost of living across the board. So it won't even matter.
this benefit the people to reindustrialize America? Does it give them a kind of solution to the absence of careers, the absence to having a job that we're going to have for our entire lives, that we can build our skills, that we can focus and hone our craft? Are
The industry now is no longer allowing people to craft their skills. They are telling you you already should have your skills or you should be coming out of a trade school to have your skills because everything is going automated and businesses who are still using labor skills or trade skills, they're trying to use those people to make and fabricate parts so they don't have to order the parts because the parts are expensive. But as they lose those workers from being overworked, working multiple positions and roles, they're going to eventually buy the parts, but then they're going to start cutting back overhead. And as things become fully automated, they're not going to require you to have a skill except to stand there and watch the machine. And it's probably why a lot of people are not really focusing on schools anymore or academies or trade schools anymore because everything's becoming automated and it's getting worse. We only had one president warn us about that. And now that AI is being fast tracked into a lot, especially the administrative roles and the IT roles, you're not going to need skills for that role or that career either. AI is at a point where almost anybody can to be possibly fabricate a skill right at their desk or right in their phone. They could just fabricate a skill because AI is going to just spit it right out. I mean, like the movie Wally, we're just going to become dumber and dumber, you know. So yeah, jobs are not going to help you develop your skills because they're pushing for automation, and with the automation, they're going to push us to be replaced. That's what this country's doing. Now, other countries are trying to use robotics to help increase manufacturing. I mean, Japan has to use robotics to replace the human workforce because the young people don't want to work those hard, long hours. So they are doing it for a necessity, but this country is doing it out of greed and selfishness.
Are we doomed to just have low paying factory jobs? And I think that that's kind of where we're going to. If we re-industrialize, if we start producing again, then the cost of our goods are going to have to go up considerably, just because the cost to make those goods are going to be American prices. We can complain
Plus
about
the
tariffs
cost to pay
of
us as
products coming from a
workers and
place
the
like
demand of what
Vietnam,
they want us
but
to
even
be
if they're
paid
charging
as.
us like a 90% tariff, the products there are made so cheaply, right? The supply chain over there is at such a low cost. The overhead is so low that when it comes to America, even after that, 90-95% tariff, I'm just throwing that number out of my butt, but bear with me. That product, when it hits the States, even after shipping, is going to be far cheaper than anything made in America. So how can American goods compete? Did you say,
That's one of the reasons why a lot of companies outsource. And the sad thing is they outsource because it's cheaper to have the product made, and on top of that, it's cheaper to pay them. it's, it's cheaper. But the sad thing is they import it even with, you know, discounts on customs, or they get, you know, I guess tax breaks on customs shippings and whatever else. They raise the price 2 to 3 times higher on us because we're going to pay for it because we're not going to complain about it, or we're going to find a means to pay for it by working extra. And we've gotten into that habit to the point they already know we're going to do just that. So they're going to keep raising the price on cheaply made products imported in. It sucks. But see, President Trump wants to cut that off because number one, China is a mass producer and he's jealous. But the other problem, in fact, it's not necessarily him. It started far back when they were outsourcing to the Asian Pacific, mainly China, and they started the narrative that China was stealing our products. It was a scare tactic to make us buy our products. But the Chinese don't have copyright policies and rules. In fact, the way, if you look at how it works, is if you take your foreign business and put it in another country, you're borrowing their land. Then you're gonna hire their workers. Their workers have to make your product. So now you just stole work from the country you live in and gave it to somebody else. Now you're showing and allowing them to make your design. They already have your design. They already have your product. And they have to test your product. And their laws, and I probably have to say their government want a piece of that type of technology to share with their people also, or they want you to sell it to their people too. They want a piece of the, because you're on their territory. So you're going to agree for cheap labor. So without their copyright laws, they're going to imitate the product to sell to their people even cheaper. But when they became mass producers, they started being accused of being thieves. Now, Americans, if you look at American history, the American government has kidnapped and stolen a lot of technology from a lot of countries. I can name one, Germany.
well, we need to make the decision in our households that we need to buy in American goods. But the fact is, people really don't have choice anymore when it comes to their household expenditures. People are making choices out of necessity and survival now. And this is pretty well accepted. America's an incredibly expensive place. Just look on YouTube. I've made successful videos about it. We're all poor now. We're all just
Absolutely.
fighting to survive. Everyone's paycheck to paycheck. And if
Absolutely.
you're not paycheck to paycheck, don't be an ass because people are out here suffering.
Yeah, I'm so glad he has said. I am so glad because I am so sick and tired of these YouTubers, and it's not all of them, but they got these select YouTubers that are doing reaction videos off of TikTokers who are trauma dumping about their uh, monthly and yearly income from these jobs, probably between 40 to 60K, and they have to live near their job. So guess what? Most of them are living in these expensive cities, and they're getting stripped of their income because it's costing so much. And these YouTubers are talking about, well, I can make it, I'm affording it with my YouTube pay. Maybe you need to spend less or stop wasting money or stop living in these expensive apartments and budget. But like, yo, what it's like, yo, what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
You need an enema. Are you being garbage?
for and the one that gets me is when they review people talking about their cost of living. Like, you had your house probably around 2015, my guy. These people are trying to move from a school to a career with housing costs over 1,500. It's like hypocrisy beyond hypocrisy. That shit is fucking unreal. It's fucking unreal. And honestly, a lot of YouTubers, the way they brag, you gotta understand the reason why they may have like 50K followers to a million is because they started between 2010 to 2015, and the pandemic boosted their following even higher. That's why they have so many views. And not only that, they're dropping like 3 to 4 videos a day, sometimes 6 to 10. So it's giving their followers something to watch all damn day. Everybody else who's coming in on the social media platform, they're struggling because of the biased algorithm. Why do you think everybody's on TikTok?
Say, we'll just buy American. I'm not buying American stuff if it's going to cost me 2 or 3 times as much because
Exactly.
that's just the way that it is. We have to make smart decisions.
And I just said that because, like I said, they outsource their business and their company, make them build it, and then they import it at their market value and then raise it 2 to 3 times to our market value and make us pay for it while they're collecting a massive amount of profit off of what and how it was made. Massive.
To keep ourselves afloat in this kind of crumbling economy. So, what does that mean when we reindustrialize? What does that mean when we have all these jobs that are coming, these factory jobs? What happens when we build a surplus of goods in our warehouses and there's no buyers? Because the competition, whether you like it or not, whether you like the tariffs that they put on us or not, their products are always going to be cheaper because it's
Absolutely.
cheaper to live there. It
Absolutely.
has nothing to do with morality. This is business. If I have $5, why would I buy one $5 apple when I can go buy five $1 apples? Right? It's a simple choice, but this is what it comes down to. It costs so much to grow things, it costs so much to transport things, to process things in America, that those products are just expensive. Now, what happens if we all
And he's making a valid point, and I can tell you, like, case in point, look on Etsy. One of the problems I had over the years, people handcraft and make their products from different things from home, and then man, they charge like just astronomical amounts of money. It's retarded. They try to price it at a regular retail value of a mass produced item, and then some of the people I talked to talking about, well, it's selling like this online for that price, so I need to make mine that price or even a little bit higher. They're mass producing it though. You're only making one, and you don't even have the customers. It's insane. It's like when I made products, and I used to make products, I would do like $1 or $2 profit because I'm trying to sell it as affordable and cheap as possible so I can build a customer base. That's kind of what Jana did decades ago. And the reason why, in fact, the reason why they made cheap products was because They were growing to be a mass producer for the entire world. Like the entire world's currency is extremely lower than America's. So China has to make products for everybody around the world at their price point. And once they built up export business structure and a trade structure, then they started focusing on quality and improving regulations. There's a documentary on that. That's why. But we are so hell bent on getting money, making profits that we're losing the sight of quality. And the quantity is we waste so much. Like we mass produce so much and it just sits around, and no one's buying it. So they just jack the price up, or it gets so old depreciative that they just clearance it out or throw it away. We're a wasteful country, very wasteful.
Ostracize ourselves economically from the rest of the world. And we force Americans to buy American, even though they're so expensive. Well, the only answer to that is no one's going to be able to buy. And you're like, well, this is the free market. But if you're regulating the market so much that you're cutting out the global market for the domestic market, then that's not the free market. You've just monopolized the market. You've turned America into a company town that forces people to do their business solely in America without any real benefit because they can't compete internationally anymore. At that point, America loses any chance of being an economic hegemon anymore, an economic power at that point. If we become an insular economy, it doesn't work, right? It may have worked decades ago, generations ago, a bygone past. But now in this America, in this consumer culture, where we're expecting cheaply made goods of low quality for low prices, that's what we know, that's what we want.
He makes a valid point because honestly, and I don't know how a lot of Americans miss this, but President Trump is living in a bubble, and he's trying to roll us back into a bubble as far back as probably the 50s to the 60s. And like he said, what he is talking and his talking points about make America great again, make it a golden age, and bring industry back and make everything America first, American made. That was back then. That was back then. Like he is trying to roll us back. Like this is Back to the Future. We have long since moved forward. All that is way left behind. Everything is automated now. Everything is overpriced now. Half the businesses have outsourced so much and so far out that there's no way. Businesses have gotten so greedy. Even if they bring their businesses back here, the prices are going to go so high because, like it was stated in the beginning of the video, they made it too expensive to make products here. They made it too expensive to ship it around the United States. And then the demand for the dollar for pay is going to be so substantially high, that they're going to have to deal with the workers' demands on high pay because the American workers are still stuck in this lie of the American dream of living rich. It's not going to work at all anymore. It's just ridiculous. So we have some kind of way we just lost track of what this man was saying. I don't know who was not paying attention, but he talks to a lot of boomers. That's all I can see who's paying attention. A lot of boomers, because everybody else, I don't think they can relate. They just voting for whatever economic relief they can get out of a vote, and then they turn around and get woke up from a lie. Now they woke because they just got lied to. It's like I know the Gen X's to Gen Z, I don't think they can relate to this man, and they just going with the flow. But I don't understand why he's trying to roll us back when we're trying to move forward because we got no choice to move forward. It makes no sense. And they voted him in, talking like he's from the 1950s. That makes no sense.
That kind of built in America, if it's even good quality, that just can't exist anymore because no one has the ability to pay. Like I said, it's not choice really. Not when people are barely keeping their heads above water, right?
Yeah,
Every
absolutely.
penny counts now. I mean, for my profession, I deal with people who are in debt quite a bit, and their lives are quite difficult.
We'll skip ahead a bit. Let's see here.
And start subsidizing every part of industry while we try to build up an industrialized American again, it's just kind of a nightmare. And all that's going to lead to is more money printing and more devaluation of our already
And we
devalued
already way past
dollar,
that part too.
putting
That's another
people at
reason
more risk than they're
why we
already
can't
in
roll
because the
back.
cost of products, the cost of commodities is only going to continue to rise with the devaluation of the dollar and the fact that every country on the planet seems to be wanting to throw tariffs against us because we're throwing tariffs against them because they had tariffs against us. But like I said, their products are cheaper. So inevitably, we're just going to have to take the knee and start taking this cheap shit again because that's the way that people survive.
And we was actually doing that until Trump came in office, and he's cutting that off because one, he's jealous of China being a mass producer, and number two, he is jealous that China can sell stuff cheaper, and he's trying to trick us into thinking we're going to have businesses sell stuff to us cheaper if we make it here. But we all know, if you hopefully we all should know, that that is not happening no time soon, if not ever anyway. You walk into a Dollar Tree, it's at the price point of Walmart right now, literally. I saw a sign in the Dollar Tree that says box fan starting at $5, and it had a $20 fan sitting right underneath the sign. Three of them in the Dollar Tree, $20. It's we are not going to make it with the way things cost right now, and then forcing us to buy American made stuff, and it's either too expensive and low quality or too expensive and doesn't have longevity anymore because everybody has cut. In fact, what makes it worse is he rolls back regulations that makes things made with quality, and then they're going to take those rollback regulations and make it quick and cheap so they can save extra money. That's the only reason why he rolled back the regulations, so the businesses can save money and make it any kind of way they want to without quality involved. And sadly to say, China started out doing that first, and now they're trying to focus on quality. That's why you see a lot of stuff that's on Temu showing up on Amazon, but it's twice the price because, again, Amazon wants to make profit off of something that's coming out of China, off of our hard-earned money. It's a vicious capitalistic greedy cycle.
Now, Americans survive off cheap shit. That's the way
They
it
have to
is. We
now.
can't fight
They have
against
to.
that. We can't afford expensive shit. And,
Right.
billionaires telling us, hey, just suck it up for a little bit and you'll have American goods. Well, we all know those American goods are going to be expensive.
And I am so sick and tired of that narrative. They've been throwing that narrative at us for about 30 years. I am so tired of them telling us you need to cut back if you can't afford it because you're overspending, and yet they keep pushing ads into our faces now on the phones, onto computers, and they keep raising the price. We have cut back so much over that 30-year period that we are no longer able to cut back anymore because they have raised the prices so bad, especially after 2020, that there's nothing left to cut back on. People are cutting back on buying stuff and they're stealing it now. That's what's being cut back, buying it because they're going to steal it. It the math ain't math, period. No matter how you look at it. These rich analysts and economic analysts that keep trying to tell us that it's our fault. It's not math because we have cut back, and now it's biting us in the ass because you all are raising the price, because you all want to maintain our profits and stockpile in the stock market. There's nothing left to cut back. Absolutely nothing left.
If you're an adult, you know that American stuff's expensive. And if you're young, you may not realize that it used to be 40, 50 years ago, made in America meant something, right? A standard of quality and resilience in the product that meant that it was going to last a
Skip up a bit. Let's see here.
kind of product anymore. We don't have the thing, but I think the idea of reindustrializing America and bringing business back to America, it's a beautiful dream and it's a beautiful concept. But when we really apply it to reality and kind of the realistic economic landscape that the world exists in, there's really no way to say that it's feasible.
And we're going to stop right there because honestly, he makes a valid point, and I touched upon this already because Donald Trump has took his so-called American dream and forced us into this bubble. Him making everything made here, sold here, bought here is his dream. And it's not ever going to work because we're not living in the 50s or 60s or 70s. That you cannot roll this country back and expect everything that's been modernized and digitized and outsourced for so long and overpriced at a rapid rate in 5 years is going to work when you refuse to lower the prices. You refuse to get these rich oligarchs and companies to take all that stockpile money and reinvest it into this country so y'all can bring prices down so people can pay for this stuff and give you back the money you gave us for working. That's what makes zero sense. You paying us to work, you want us to buy, but you acting like we're not buying enough, so you keep raising the price to where we can't buy it at all. But you're still getting your money back. I mean, make it make sense.